This is ASMR News. Drift off, wake up, or simply relax with the world's biggest headlines. The White House ceremony a week ago Saturday to nominate Amy Barrett to the Supreme Court appears to have been a COVID-19 superspreader event. In addition to Trump, other attendees at the event who have now tested positive include Senators Mike Lee and Tom Tillis, both Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee, John Jenkins, the president of Notre Dame University, former Trump aide Kellyanne Conway, Bill Stepien, Trump's campaign manager, and 3 White House reporters. Photographs of Lee hugging guests at the ceremony have been widely circulated. Other top Republicans who have recently been in contact with Trump and who have tested positive include ex-governor of New Jersey Chris Christie, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel, and Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. Trump returned to the White House Monday evening after receiving an antiviral for COVID-19 called remdesivir, given as part of a 2-pronged treatment plan that includes an antibody cocktail meant to give the immune system a boost to fight off the coronavirus. Remdesivir, manufactured by Gilead Sciences, works by lowering the amount of virus in the body. Clinical data has found that the drug may reduce deaths as well as reducing patients' hospital stays by about 4 days, from 15 days to a median of 11 days. Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok have all stated that wishing for the president to die is not allowed, and that such posts will be removed for violating each platform's policies. Trump came under criticism after he appeared publicly on Sunday in a drive-by to greet supporters. Wearing a mask, the president waved to well-wishers from behind the glass of a sealed car after tweeting that he would leave Walter Reed Hospital to pay a surprise visit to patriots outside. A doctor at the hospital strongly criticized the president's motorcade ride due to the infection risk inside the car. That presidential SUV is not only bulletproof, but hermetically sealed against chemical attack. The risk of COVID-19 transmission inside is as high as it gets outside of medical procedures, Dr. James Phillips tweeted. He said that those inside the president's car would need to quarantine for 14 days and are at risk of getting ill. The World Health Organization said 1 in 10 people worldwide, or around 800 million people, may have contracted COVID-19. In contrast, just over 35 million people have been confirmed as being infected with coronavirus, which means the vast majority of the world remains at risk, according to a WHO official. Kenzo Taka, the founder of popular fashion brand Kenzo, has died aged 81 from complications linked to coronavirus. The first Japanese designer to gain prominence in the Paris fashion scene, Kenzo was known for his bright graphics, jungle-inspired prints, and eclectic use of color. head of Pfizer said he was disappointed that its work on a coronavirus vaccine was politicized during this week's presidential debate, and tried to reassure U.S. staff that the company won't bend to pressure to move more quickly. Chief Executive Officer Albert Bourla said the company is moving at the speed of science rather than under any political timing. The only pressure we feel, and it weighs heavy, are the billions of people, millions of businesses, and hundreds of government officials that are depending on us, Bourla wrote. Despite top U.S. federal health officials repeatedly stating that a vaccine is unlikely to be available widely until 2021, President Trump has insisted that a vaccine will be ready before Election Day. A dying Indigenous woman filmed a video of hospital staff in Quebec taunting her, an incident that has sparked protests, prompted investigation, and led to a nurse's firing. Joyce Echequan, 37, a mother of 7, filmed the video after she had been taken to a hospital 2 days prior for stomach pains. She died the same day she took the video. In the footage, nurses can be heard in French calling Echequan stupid as hell and suggesting she was only good for sex. The world's largest cinema chain, Cineworld, will temporarily shut theaters in the United States and the UK, a move that would impact 45,000 jobs as it deals with a significant downturn in the industry brought on by the coronavirus crisis. The chain, which is looking at different ways of raising additional funds, said it will suspend operations at all of its 536 Regal theaters in the US and its 127 Cineworld and Picture House theaters in the UK. European countries that claimed to have the coronavirus under control are seeing a resurgence in infections. The United Kingdom, which has the biggest death toll on the continent, reported 12,872 new COVID-19 cases on Saturday, more than double the country's most recent 7-day rolling average. France recorded a daily record on Saturday, with 16,972 new COVID-19 cases in the past 24 hours, surpassing last week's record of 16,096. Poland reported 2,367 new COVID-19 cases on Saturday, a record high for the third day in a row, while Italy reported its highest daily increase since April 24th, with 2,844 cases. German Chancellor Angela Merkel warned that at the current state of infection, her country could see more than 19,000 cases per day by the end of the year. Germany reported 2,673 new coronavirus infections on Friday, the highest number of daily infections since April 18th. French Health Minister Olivier Véran has classified Paris and nearby suburbs as a maximum alert zone, shutting down bars and banning family parties or other big gatherings until the situation improves. COVID-19 patients now occupy 1/3 of the intensive care units in the Paris area, and ICUs in other regions of France are also filling up with virus patients, as more than 2 months of increasing infections have now spread to the country's elderly and vulnerable populations. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said the country beat the virus again and announced restrictions in Auckland would be eased following 12 days with no confirmed new cases. The virus was believed to have been eradicated in late May after a strict national lockdown led to New Zealanders enjoying 102 2 days without community transmission. But a new cluster emerged in Auckland in August, forcing the city into lockdown for almost 3 weeks. Singapore's Changi Airport, recognized as the best in the world, warned of financial difficulties as the impact from the COVID-19 pandemic shows no signs of abating. Profits for the year ending March 2020 fell 36% to 435 million Singapore dollars, which is 319 million US dollars. However, the results don't reflect much of the severe downturn in passengers since the pandemic took hold in January. Singapore barred the entry and transit of short-term visitors on March 23rd. Pilgrims began returning to Saudi Arabia after authorities partially lifted a 7-month ban on performing Umrah, a pilgrimage to Islam's 2 holiest sites that is undertaken at any time of the year. Saudi Arabia, which held a largely symbolic Hajj earlier this year limited to domestic worshippers, has allowed citizens and residents to start performing Umrah as of Sunday at 30% capacity, or 6,000 pilgrims a day. It will open for Muslims from abroad starting November 1st. Last year, the country drew 19 million Umrah visitors. Guatemala will detain and return members of a caravan of about 2,000 migrants that left neighboring Honduras in hopes of reaching the United States, saying they represent a health threat amid the coronavirus pandemic. More than 100,000 people marched in Belarus's capital on Sunday to demand President Alexander Lukashenko's resignation and to release political prisoners. Police used water cannons in an attempt to disperse the crowds, but the protesters remained. One video from the rally showed a group of protesters approaching a water cannon vehicle, opening a hatch on its side and removing pieces from inside the vehicle, after which it malfunctioned and drove away. Reports that North Korean soldiers shot a South Korean government worker may have exposed key intelligence gathering techniques by South Korea. South Korea's Ministry of National Defense first announced the shooting and gave a timeline of events, but most specific details reported in the press appear to have been leaked by lawmakers from intelligence briefings given by military and security officials. While the briefings are routine, the amount of detail the press was given may have exposed just how that intelligence was gathered. Military officials have since expressed frustration at how much lawmakers gave away on this case, fearing it may prompt Pyongyang to change codes or other communication methods that Seoul's intelligence services had previously succeeded in compromising. New Caledonia voted against independence from France for the second time in 2 years. However, support for independence increased from the previous referendum in the country that was colonized by France in 1853. More than 46.7% of ballots were cast in favor of independence, up from 43.3% in the last vote in November 2018. Turnout was over 85%. Protesters demanded the dismissal of the government of a northern Indian state where a 19-year-old woman from the country's lowest caste was allegedly gang raped and later died in a hospital. The protesters accused authorities of trying to hush up the crime by cordoning off the family's village. A leader of the main opposition said that blocking off the village was an injustice to the family and showed that the state is unsafe for women. The state government suspended 5 police officers for alleged negligence in their handling of the investigation of the case. Police have said they have arrested 4 suspects, all from an upper caste. A Jewish student entering a synagogue in Hamburg was badly injured in an attack by a man wielding a shovel. Last month, Chancellor Angela Merkel warned of rising anti-Semitism. The 26-year-old sustained severe head injuries and was taken to a hospital. The incident took place almost 1 year after a gunman attacked a synagogue in the city of Halle during Yom Kippur, killing 2. The suspect, 29, was dressed in military clothes and had a hand-drawn swastika in his pocket, police said. Thai police are contacting the 194 members of Interpol to ask them to provide information about the whereabouts of the 38-year-old Fora youth Yuvidya, who is better known by the nickname Boss. A red notice is a request to police forces worldwide to locate and provisionally arrest an individual pending extradition. Fora youth's Ferrari ran into a police officer's motorcycle on a Bangkok street in 2012, killing the officer. He avoided court appearances for several years and continued to live a jet-set life before fleeing abroad following the issue of an initial arrest warrant in 2017. Researchers Harvey J. Alter, Michael Houghton, and Charles M. Rice won the Nobel Prize in Medicine for the discovery of hepatitis C virus. The discovery of hepatitis C virus revealed the cause of the remaining cases of chronic hepatitis and made possible blood tests and new medicines that have saved millions of lives, said the statement shared by the committee. Alter and Rice were both born in the US, while Houghton was born in the UK. WHO estimates 71 million people have chronic hepatitis C virus infection, and a significant number of those who are chronically infected will develop cirrhosis, scarring of the liver caused by long-term liver damage or liver cancer. Ireland's Supreme Court ruled last Tuesday that because of the sugar content, Subway's loaves don't meet the legal standard for bread. Instead, the court found bread was a confectionery or fancy baked good, since its sugar-to-flour ratio was nearly 5 times too high to fall within the legal standard of staple foods. Under Ireland's Value-Added Tax Act of 1972, bread can't have a sugar content that exceeds 2% of its weight of flour and dough to be considered a staple food and therefore tax-free. All of Subway's heated sandwich bread options have sugar contents of 10%. Twitter users are using the Proud Boys hashtag with photos and tweets depicting LGBTQ love in an effort to divert attention from the controversial white supremacist group. While it is not clear where the original idea came from, the campaign took off with a tweet from actor George Takei, who played Sulu in the Star Trek TV series. What if gay guys took pictures of themselves making out with each other or doing very gay things, then tagged themselves with #ProudBoys? I bet it would mess them up real bad. #ReclaimingMyShine to Cairo. In financial news, U.S. stocks closed the week lower as investors reacted to President Trump's COVID-19 diagnosis, a weaker than expected September jobs report, the November election, a worsening pandemic, and hopes of additional stimulus from Washington. In commodities, oil sell-offs intensified as Trump's coronavirus news added to the industry's demand concerns. Gold futures for December delivery fell, while yields on the 10-year Treasury note closed higher. In Europe, stocks ended slightly higher after recouping from Trump-driven selling and hopes of more U.S. stimulus from Washington, despite the lack in Brexit talks. Archaeologists said Saturday they had found at least 59 ancient coffins in a necropolis south of Cairo, more than 2,600 years after they were buried. A sealed door was also unearthed, where it is expected more mummies may lie ahead, said Khaled El-Anani, the first minister of Antiquities and Tourism, adding that the artifacts were in an excellent state of preservation and would be displayed in the Grand Egyptian Museum next year. Nigeria's Inspector General of Police has banned an elite unit from carrying out stop and search duties and setting up roadblocks amid growing anger at routine harassment and atrocities allegedly committed by its officers. Videos shared recently on social media appear to show officers of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad extorting money and even shooting people. In the EU category, and a case worthy of the House MD television series, a 25-year-old woman in Australia discovered she had tapeworm larvae in her brain after complaining of headaches for over 7 years. The aches were caused by tapeworm larvae that had taken up space in her brain, the first native case of the disease in Australia. Previous Australian cases of this infection were from immigrants or returning residents who traveled to regions where the disease is endemic to, such as Africa, Asia, and Latin America. The woman had previously complained of headaches that would occur 2 or 3 times a month and went away with prescribed migraine medication. However, her latest headache lasted for more than a week and came with more severe visual symptoms, including the blurring of her central vision. A powerful storm that hit southeastern France and northwestern Italy has killed at least 2 people and up to 20 are missing. Named Alex, the storm brought fierce winds and torrential rain, causing serious damage from floods and landslides in a number of villages north of Nice in France, with roads, bridges, and homes destroyed. Russian investigators are looking into a possible ecological catastrophe in the eastern Kamchatka region after scores of dead sea creatures washed up in one of its bays, and surfers reported burns to their eyes and throats and complaining that the sea had an unnatural smell and color. Images of dead seals, octopuses, sea stars, and urchins have been shared on social media for several days. head of Thailand's state zoological agency was shot dead on Saturday. He had been investigating the suspicious disappearance of rare animals from a zoo in a southern province. Police said the suspected gunman, a senior official at the zoo, fled the scene of the shooting and killed himself in his living quarters. The motive for the killings was not immediately clear, though Srethep said the suspected gunman was one of 4 senior zoo officials being investigated in relation to a number of missing animals. Conservation groups released 26 Tasmanian devils into the wild in Australia for the first time in 3,000 years. There are still some of the endangered species on the island state of Tasmania, but their numbers have dwindled over the past 2 decades, and it is thought that packs of dingoes helped eradicate them on the mainland. The Tasmanian devil gets its name from its high-pitched squeal and is renowned for fighting over access to animal carcasses, which it grinds with the bone-crushing force of its jaws. Animal experts say they pose no threat to humans or agriculture. Wildfires have burned a record 4 million acres, or about 1.6 million hectares in California. The unprecedented figure, an area larger than the state of Connecticut, is more than double the previous record for the most land burned in a single year in the Golden State. On Sunday, last year's Premier League champions Liverpool suffered a humiliating defeat, losing to Aston Villa 7-2. Raly Oct scored his first half hat-trick as Villa ended the half with a 4-1 lead. Arsenal beat Sheffield 2-1 behind second-half goals from Bukayo Saka and Nicolas Pepe. Chelsea defeated Crystal Palace 4-0 on Saturday. Jorginho converted 2 penalties late in the second half after Ben Chilwell and Kurt Zuma scored early in the half. Zuma's goal came on a cross from Chilwell, and Chilwell's goal came off a rebound. Christian Pulisic made his first appearance this season after suffering a hamstring injury in August, substituting for Callum Hudson-Odoi in the 83rd minute. 3 weeks into the season, Everton is atop the table with 12 points, followed by Aston Villa, Leicester City, Arsenal, and Liverpool with 9 points. Chelsea is tied for 6th place with 3 other teams at 7 points. The Seattle Storm beat the Las Vegas Aces 93-80 in the opening game of the WNBA Finals, then followed with a 104-91 win in the second game to take a 2-0 lead in the best-of-5 series. In the first game, Sue Bird, the oldest active player in the league at 39, had a playoff record 16 assists. In the second game, Bird had a double-double with 10 assists and 16 points. The Los Angeles Lakers led the Miami Heat 2-1 in the best-of-7 NBA Finals series after Miami won the third game 115-104. Jessica Marcialis became the first female jockey to win a top-level Group 1 race in France, with victory on Tiger Tanaka at Paris-Longchamp. The Italian, who resumed her career after becoming a mother, triumphed in the Prix Marcel Boussac. She won on a horse who had run in a much lower grade earlier in the year. I want to say to all the mums that we can do it, so to be strong, she said. Marcialis, 30, punched the air as she powered away on the filly to win at odds of 13-2 at a meeting which features Europe's richest race, the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe. Female jockeys have been given a weight allowance in French racing in recent years, but this does not apply in Group 1 races. In the French Open, 1-seed Novak Djokovic beat 15-seed Karen Khachanov to advance to the quarterfinals in the men's draw. In the women's draw, 1-seed Simona Halep failed to advance, falling to unseeded Iga Swiatek. The women's finals will be held on Saturday and the men's finals on Sunday. This